What's up? Let's end the week. Friday, we got an expert restaurant roundup coming at you with the man, the myth, the legend, Best Served Podcast. Be back in 1 second. That beat is fly, isn't it?
You know, I'm literally going to write a note right now and be like, team, we need a badass bumper intro. We got a nice little exit video that we do that feels like a movie trailer, like all the movie production companies, Bad Robot and stuff. They have theirs. I like yours better. We're going to steal it.
You want to see the MP one?
Yeah, of course I do.
Watch this one.
You look good as a cartoon, let me tell you.
Yeah, the cartoon's great. And what's funny is my dad's cartoon, all of our employees, everybody on the team have cartoons. My dad's actually looks like he's like a human cartoon.
Dad, I saw you're on with your dad yesterday. Love that you're getting time with that. I've had my family on the show too. It's important.
Yeah, we have a good time. Try to talk to my mom. She was up here in the studio yesterday. She wouldn't get on camera, so she was too tired. I'm like, whatever. So she's dead to me right now. So tell everybody who you are, Chef.
Yeah, Jensen Cummings, based out here in Denver, Colorado, founder of Best Served Creative, Best Served Podcast, and a long time in the industry. My story started way before I did. I'm the fifth consecutive generation of chef restaurateur in my family. We started our first restaurant in 1900 in Little Falls, Minnesota, called La Fond House. Yeah, for real. We are gluttons for punishment. And my three uncles own restaurants across the country currently. My younger brother, also in the industry, cooked with me a long time out here in Denver. And then he's back in Southern California where we're from. And he runs a sushi program at one of my uncle's restaurants. So it's in our DNA. It's been a part of my life, for better or worse, for a long time, since 17 when I started washing dishes at my uncle's restaurant, and have tried to get out multiple times. It just keeps sucking you in, man.
Yep, keep sucking you in. So what I want to talk about today, just some quick stuff, is I've been to 1,000+ restaurants in the last year or two. I mean, I'm all over the country. We travel a lot. I see a lot in person. You talk to a lot of people. I mean, is the podcast still daily?
So many. We've taken it easy, I think, for the health of myself and the team. It was every single day for like 6 months at the onset of the pandemic. And then, we've done over 400 shows. We've started to do a lot more outreach into like these communities and trying to just be understanding what's happening across the landscape of the hospitality industry. So I've probably interacted over the last 2 years, close to 10,000 people across the industry, from just going out and asking stupid questions and looking for smart answers, hopping into industry specific, Facebook groups and be like, what's happening? Are any restaurants supporting mental health? Is anybody doing interesting storytelling? Things like that. I just try to be like a satellite for, people across the industry that are struggling, that are thriving. So it's a lot of interaction, and like it can be rewarding, and it can be unbelievably fucking depleting. And I think a lot of people are feeling a lot of both. It's an emotional roller coaster for sure.
Oh, for sure. It's been a crazy couple of years. So let's talk. I got like 3 topics I wanted to ask you about.
Let's get into it.
I've got a phrase I use a lot called, you can outsmart or you can outspend. And I've got a book I'm writing called Outsmart Because You Can't Outspend. Because let's be honest, most restaurants, especially independents, you ain't outspending Chick-fil-A and Papa John's.
Got a lot of money.
And all that. But you can outsmart them. But here's the problem. Restaurants aren't outsmarting people. We've got a stats page, americasbestrestaurants.com/stats. It's an accumulation of 6 questions we answer when we go to restaurants and we talk to them. The one that's amazing to me is that 97% of restaurants that we've analyzed, there's a lot of restaurants in there, do not actively talk to their customers about getting their information. There's 3 questions they all ask. Hey, how you doing? What do you want today? How are you paying? And, my goal is to eliminate the, hey, how you doing shit, because you don't actually care. Like if I say, hey, Jensen, I don't care how you're doing. I mean, granted, we are a little more friendly than maybe some random dude who walks in a restaurant. But why do you think that is, that restaurants, and I don't buy into the people are overworked and people, I think it's a training and a culture thing, because they were taught to ask for a credit card. They were taught to wash their hands. They were taught to put gloves on. Why are conversations so hard in the restaurant world?
Okay. I'm going to answer this in 3 ways, because Part of it is the personality of what it means to be a part of a restaurant. Part of it is the training, to your point, and part of it is the self-worth of it. So the personality side of it, we are misfits so often. We didn't want the cubicle, the 9 to 5, the suit and tie. I didn't want that life, right? When I found restaurants, I found something that like gave me a sense of belonging that I hadn't found before. And so the vulnerability though of that is then you buy into all of what it means to be part of a restaurant, and so much of that is decaying and toxic, and you've seen that play out in restaurants a lot. And you talk about the culture, it's been exposed, and so there's a personality trait that we need to get beyond. We are in the training side, then we are so good at being reactive, we are not good at being proactive. What you're talking about is being very proactive and building a deep work relationship with the audience that you have, both internally and externally. And we don't do a very good job of that. And the reason is we're reactionary, right? We are not good at strategy. We're very good at navigating them through the 45 minutes, the hour and 15 minutes of a table turn. We're good at the steps of service aspects of it. We're good at greeting them in 30 seconds, dropping a bev nap to make sure that you've touched that table. We're good at dropping the check. We're good at all those things, but we're not good at understanding the relationship that you're actually building. And the self-worth side, we have been told time and time and time again that you're only as good as your next plate. Smile is part of your uniform. Leave your shit door. And that has created a huge vulnerability where we do not actually express more than what goes on the plate. And we are both all in on content. We're all in on media, messaging, and marketing. And that is where the true essence of this industry is, right? We in America value food less than almost any culture on the planet. We spend less as a percentage of income. We're in the bottom 3 almost always. Yep. We as Americans, we value story more than any culture in history. Just look at the bill that comes due from your Amazon and your Hulu and your Netflix. And so what I'm always trying to do is shift the mindset towards telling your story versus just creating a commoditized transactional relationship with the food product itself. The food is just the proof that you are who you say you are. And listen, your food better be fucking fire for you to have even opportunity. The reality is what people want is you need to make them feel something. And I know you talk about, you have your favorite restaurants and stuff. You go there because it gives you a sense of maybe coming home, maybe feeling comfortable, familiarity, or sometimes we like restaurants that take us on an adventure somewhere we've never been before. It's the feeling. And restaurants, if they start to approach the feeling, they have a real opportunity to create a very different type of business.
No, I agree completely. But it amazes me because there's so much opportunity. Yesterday, I was down in we have a sales bullpen with our sales team and people who call for our different parts of our company. And this one really cracked me up. And I did a video on it, of course, I do video all the time. I got video guys usually around me, filming me doing videos.
Yeah.
And I sat in the room and I watched them call. I just wanted to hear what they were talking about. And the hardest part was getting somebody at a restaurant to answer the phone. And this wasn't like the busy time because we're not idiots. We're not calling at 12 o'clock at a lunchtime restaurant. This is like 2:30, 3 o'clock. This is like 9:45 a.m., 10:30 a.m. And the restaurants, it was like literally like 30 restaurants. Only like 2 of them had quick phone answered correctly or an answer machine that answered correctly. One place had like a 3-minute voicemail before it could press a button to choose anything. It was like, hey, welcome to our restaurant. It was like literally gave me the synopsis of the world. And then finally said, for reservations, press 1. For delivery, press 2. And I'm like, what's going on? A lot of restaurants, the phones just rang and rang. We actually had probably 5 or 6 restaurants that it went to the generic voicemail, like, the caller you've reached isn't available. Beep.
Wow.
I mean, and then, I was at an event recently. I don't know if you know who Grant Cardone is or not, but I was down at one of his events in Miami.
TEDx.
Yep. And Grant was talking about answering the phone. And he was talking about somebody there was talking about a mattress place they had recently called. They called, it rang one time. Person answered the phone and said, how was your sleep last night? And the guy, of course, you're calling him out. He said, it's actually not that good. He's like, great. We've got a 90-day guarantee that your sleep will improve or you get your money back. When can you come by to get a mattress?
Mm-hmm.
It's
You know,
like
that you talked about the training piece. This is interesting. I talk a lot about, like, you know, canned questions get canned answers. The thing that happens in restaurants all the time, you see this, you see the manager who table jumps and checks on tables because they don't want to go to 2 tables in a row. They table jump, but if you're a table across the way, you can just see what they're doing. And they go, "How was everything?" And you know what the answer to that question is? Everything was fine.
Fine.
It does not create the depth of relationship. Not like, how was that Riesling? I know you've been in a few times and you order a different Riesling each time. Like, which one of those is your favorite? Like, there's an opportunity to ask a different kind of question. And that's exactly the kind of question that you need to be asking. A question that gets people talking about the thing behind the thing. That's the real thing. And that is the opportunity that a restaurant has for sure. And part of the issue, Matt, that I run into, which is why you and I are so big on media, is we need to start to combine the stories that we've been telling internally and externally at restaurants. The internal story that we've been telling within restaurants is not playing out, which is why nobody wants to work at fucking restaurants anymore. Nobody wants to work at restaurants. And I take a lot of responsibility for that. As somebody who started in the industry at 17, you know, has been in for 22 years, right? And I was on that path. I was the, you know, the hot shit chef. I was the chef owner turned failed restaurateur, turned burnout, all of those things, because we didn't understand the longevity of what we were trying to create. And so the internal story has to be better. We talk a lot about workplaces worth working. Like, you have to create a different dynamic. If anybody watching, listening on your channels, on our channels, because we'll share it out there, is needing a little bit of insight on how to post about jobs, go to Matt will drop it in the comments. Go to how Matt and his team post about the jobs that they have. You're telling a meaningful story. You're like, you know, and you got everyone swagged out in orange and blue. Like, I'm all about it. But what you see from restaurants, here's what you see from restaurants, and I'll use your color scheme. You see on Instagram, you see an orange background with blue text on it that says now hiring.
I actually saw that today.
Here we go. If you are doing that, do not follow me on social media, because likely I will reach out to you and I'll give you one of these wags of my finger, because nobody is inspired by the post that says hiring line cooks, $14 to $16 an hour based on experience. Apply here. Like, wow, I am like, sign me up for that job. I can't wait to go to the place that is putting in so much effort to be able to inspire people to be a part of their team. So that workplaces worth working. We talk about these job stories. Our buddy Sean Walsh had a great job telling a story where I was like, I'm putting you on for 60 seconds, Sean. Tell me why I should come and work for you. And without any rehearsal, nothing, in 58 seconds, he like dropped the mic and was like, this is the type of place that you would want to go and work. You have to use media and storytelling to disrupt the pattern. We're stuck in this loop. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results, man. We got to change the narrative.
It's blue ocean, red ocean. Every restaurant's playing in the red ocean. It's sharks feeding on the thing, and there's blood in the water. And the blue ocean is nobody. Like, this is a podcast studio at our office. Got a window looking in the lobby. We got a big office here. We call it Deep Work Studios. We've now have 3 companies locally that are coming on board for help. Let us produce a podcast for them and then distribute it. And that's my challenge is to restaurant. Like, I've never seen a restaurant with a podcast, but guess what? People would love, like, I was talking to a restaurant there. He's got 90 beers on tap. I'm like, dude, you could do a podcast every week about a couple beers on tap. Bring a customer in who loves IPAs. Let's talk about the 5 IPAs we got. Why do you like it? What they pick? By the way, who are you? Where are you from? What about your kids, your family? People aren't storytelling. And I was telling a restaurant this year, I'm like, the reason nobody wants, like, a client called me last Sunday and he's like, hey, I want to drop like $500 on some ads on Facebook on Now Hire. I said, save your money. What do you mean? I said, save your money. Pull this thing out. It's free to do a video on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Snapchat. Get on there and start telling the story. That's what we do a lot of. I mean, I've got 5 videographers on staff. Max, they're all on the road today and out. Max edits from home on Fridays, but usually he's here filming me. And like, literally 5 of my last 6 employees came from reaching out going, dude, love what you're doing. I'm not in the business. I have no clue how to do what you guys do, but I am willing to learn and I will come work for you right now. And these are people that already had good jobs.
Right now, today. Yeah, because you're telling them a story. People need to know that it's going to be different. And restaurants, you've heard this from restaurants. I talk to them all the time and they're like, well, how do I find people? I was like, well, how are you going about telling your story?
Yep.
And they go, this and that and the other. I was like, great, you're going on Indeed and Craigslist. You're posting the same exact post that you're posting in 2012, and you're expecting different results. It's not going to happen. Well, I'm paying $18 an hour. I was like, I could just tell by the way you just said that, even if it's on text or on social media on Messenger. I can tell by the way that you said that that is not genuine. Like, you are just using that as another pressure point to be able to think that you have the leverage. You have to do something different. I'm going to tell you a story. This is really great. Marvin Kinney is a restaurateur, long time, 30 years in the industry, has gone through all the ups and downs, has all the prototypical things. And he reached out to me because I commented on a post he put out there for hiring. And he's been trying to open a restaurant called Our Town Pizza in Reno, Nevada. And it's taking longer, it's harder, and it costs more money, like always. And he's run out of money and all the things. He's gone through all the trials and tribulations that any of us who've opened a restaurant know. We get PTSD from the amount of delays and the amount of like bureaucracy and the amount of fucking money it takes to do all that stuff. He put out a post that said, it's been an emotional roller coaster. It's been an up and down, yet I'm so excited to bring this to Reno. And I don't know exactly how I'm going to do that. Here's the things that I want to do differently. Here's the things that I believe in. And he said, he's like, every single like page in Reno has shared it. He's like, I got more applicants than anybody I've heard in the last 2 years getting. And because he's telling a different type of story. And it wasn't even that good of a story per se. He like joked about it. He's like, I didn't even know what the hell I was doing. He's like, you were just vulnerable and open, real.
Yeah.
And people don't want the facade all the time. They need to know that something behind real. So Marvin Kinney, shout out to him. He did a great job.
Love it.
Reno, go and support Our Town Pizza, because I know that they're just going to do things right. And you know, doing things right can put you at a competitive disadvantage. Disadvantage. Like, you're spending more money on your people, you're spending more money on your story, right? Somebody else can outspend you. So that's why the story is key, because nobody gives a shit about your burger. It's commoditized. Anybody else can make it.
3 of the people that we've hired recently, one of them, I put a post up on Facebook. We were driving in the van, me and like one of our employees going somewhere. I think we were in Nevada. And I got on there and was telling a story about what we were doing. I said, by the way, if you're a badass, you want to join a bunch of other badasses, that's us. Let me know. I had 2 people reach out within 2 days and say, didn't know them, but hey, my buddy tagged me or told me about this. I'm a badass. And what I've seen you guys doing is pretty badass. I want to talk. And I'm like, cool. Another one was, recently we announced a cool vacation policy. It's a little different, but it's literally our employees get a week off every 10 every 10 weeks. And then we have 3-day holidays every weekend, every month. So like, for example, in like August, we have National Root Beer Float Day. We're taking off to have a long weekend because we couldn't find a long weekend in August. But I put that out there because the reason I put it out there, I was honest. I said, hey, I love time off. I love vacations. I love the fruits of my labor. Like, I like to take the money and do something fun and create memories with my wife and kids. I don't want employees that are nailed to a desk for 50 weeks a year. And that's one of the things with the restaurant business, why, 2-3 years ago, why I know a lot of people that were in the business was flexibility, shift trading, the group text, like, hey, I need off this Friday and Monday. I'm going to go hiking at the gorge. Who can cover for me? And that's one thing I've heard a lot about that isn't highlighted enough in the business. And a lot of it went away probably at too much because of the shortages and things like that. But I think restaurants got to get back to telling that story about that's a sexy part of the restaurant business, is having a little extra time.
Yeah. What gets lost in that translation, I think this is key back to kind of what it means to be in a restaurant, is there's so much of this facade. And that's not always a bad thing. We want to, no matter what is going on, put on a great show, a great experience for the guest. And somehow we think that as a culture then within the restaurant, because people are leaving so happy that we're just the fucking happiest place on earth, and that everybody that works internally must also be reaping those benefits. And that's not the reality. A lot of times you're leaving it all out on the field. And so we then message the facade internally, and people are like, that's bullshit. I know it is. Yet we don't tell the real story. And I was very guilty of being somebody who perpetuated that. There was almost a 7-year span where I did not take a single sick day from work. I was the fucking like Cal Ripken. I was like, wanted to be the Iron Man. I was I was the one who was going to, no matter what, show up. And let me tell you, I was sick as a dog. I guarantee you I got other people sick, which actually made it worse. I remember throwing up in trash cans, like between services, all of those things. And people in restaurants know exactly what I'm talking about. And what I did, I thought I was the good guy. I thought I was doing the right thing because I would make sure that nobody else had to cover a shift. I would make sure that people had what they needed. And what I was doing is setting an example that the only way that you can be the leader is by basically trying to kill yourself emotionally, physically. And then you talk about the drugs and the alcohol on top of that and all of that. I was setting an incredibly bad example. But when you're in it, you can't see the forest through the trees. And so a lot of what I know now is because I do have perspective now. I am now the guide. I'm not trying to be the hero of the story anymore. I'm trying to be, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, it's time to like guide in the next generation. And Matt, family guy as well, yourself, respect. I always love watching your content around your family and involving them in what you guys do. And I have 2 young sons. Having the legacy has both been empowering and somewhat paralyzing at time of being 5th generation. I looked at them and said, would I want them to be the 6th generation? And the day that I knew I had to get a 70-hour work weeks in the kitchen was the night I found out that we were pregnant with our first child, our son. And then a few years later, when we had our second son, I said, would I want them to be the 6th generation? And my answer was absolutely not. And I either had to walk away or I had to double down on creating a different type of industry. And so that's when Best Served really became a reality. Even just a glimmer of hope was we have to shift we have to start acknowledge the people that it takes to do the work that so many great people in this industry, millions and millions of people, do day in and day out, that does not get acknowledged for what it truly is. And what it truly is again, creating a sense of belonging for people. That's a powerful thing. And if it's only the fact that your burger is $12 or $16, or you're paying somebody $14 or $18, you're commoditizing and transactionalizing the most important part of what you do. And that needs to change.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. I think that's one of the biggest problems in the workforce. I'm a person, my employees all know I hustle a lot. I mean, I was here at 5:30 a.m. this morning, but at the same time, they know that I also enjoy taking off. And like we had about 3 years ago, it was the first time I did this. Ashley thought I was joking. She went on vacation. I said, hey, by the way, when you go on vacation, it's like a $40 fine if I see that you reply to an email or you're in our chat. And she thought I was joking. And I'm like, no, I'm not joking. Like, go on vacation. Like, we'll figure it out. Like, number one, nobody's going to die. We're in marketing. Like, this isn't rocket science. I mean, we're helping restaurants find customers, but you've got to treat people how you want to be treated. And, I used to think the same way, when we had our boat dealership, I was Monday through Sunday, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. I had friends of mine that called me the weekend Nazi because they knew that we were open 7 days a week. Like, boat dealerships open at Saturday at 9:00 at night is unheard of. But I'm like, hey, there's people to buy boats. Now I look back and I'm like, okay, that was stupid. I was in my 20s. I was too much of a hustler, and I didn't realize the sacrifices my team were making from their families just to sell a damn boat or fishing lure. And that's stupid.
Yeah. It's that shift towards like the value that we have. One of the things that restaurant people don't understand either, I didn't understand it, is like our value has to be on just what with our hands.
Yep.
There's such an intellectual and emotional value to what people do in a restaurant. And again, that's what people will pay for. So like, that's what people want. And you need to find the way to give them that. But I alluded to it earlier. There has to be this deeper connection between our internal and external guests. As a great friend and mentor, Jeffrey Parr, told me, like, you have to change the approach. And so the approach trying to like bring into what we do from a media messaging and marketing standpoint and storytelling standpoint with Best Served is a whole house approach. What is a whole house marketing? We create these artificial barriers within restaurants all the time. Front of house versus back of house. It's AM crew versus PM crew. It's servers versus bartenders. Like, we create these little cliques into the restaurant, and we're always trying to break down those false barriers because they're a one team, one mission, right? And so it's a whole house approach. There isn't front of house and back house. And when I take that mentality to thinking about marketing, thinking about social media and storytelling, it's like, how do we put our guest, our customer, and our employee on the same type of pedestal? How do we tell a more comprehensive story that actually interweaves between them? And Robert Cialdini, the book Influence, does a great job of articulating this. We talk about social proof, especially that there's this car dealership in like Nebraska that, and this is old school, they were using classified ads, and then they use radio. Now it should go from using like Indeed to using social media. And they were looking for salespeople for their car lot, and they were struggling with the classifieds ads. And so they're like, you know what, let's go on to radio. And they did these radio ads that were expressing what it meant to be a part of their culture and selling cars, and how many more people in their community are flourishing and able to buy new cars. And every single time they ran that ad, they got a ton of applicants for jobs, and their sales went up, because people want to invest money in a place that invests in their community, that's doing well, and that is hiring within that community in a meaningful way. And so I think about that. I want to see the most exciting social media post that you put out today, right now. Pick up your damn phone and interview somebody that you work with right now about who's the master of one given dish, your signature dish, and have that person tell you why they just love cooking that dish. Even after the 1,412th dish of that they've cooked this month, they still love to make it exactly the way that they're supposed to make it, and put that on social media. That could be the most powerful thing that you put out. That's a whole house marketing approach, because you are connecting the story of a single dish in what we call cross utilization, which we do well in restaurants from an ingredient standpoint. How can you give me a 360 view of any given dish or any given element within your restaurant? Show me the human side, and show me the sexy food dish. Don't just show me the sexy food dish and say, come buy my shit. We have to do more. And that's really that whole house marketing approach. That's really what it means to do cross utilization. So like, somebody goes and put that post out there, tag me at Chef Jensen Cummings, at Best Served Podcast, me, my team, we will amplify that. I'll get it out there, because that's the kind of leadership we're looking for.
Love it,
dude.
Well, that wraps it up, man. I appreciate the time. Appreciate you coming on. Enjoy the Denver weather out there. And I guess we can all reach. You can find them on Instagram, Best Served Podcast. You can find them on LinkedIn. The guy's active everywhere. So make sure you give him a follow. Make sure you give him a thumbs up. And like you said, if you're doing some unique things, drop them in the comments, share them with the community. Let's, all tides rise, all boats.
And get on TikTok, every single restaurant. Imagine if you had gone all in on Instagram, Facebook in 2013 before it was completely pay to play. There's still a lot of white space available. Even I see Matt out there, him and his team are putting content out there. It's going to be one of the places where you can create a lot of opportunity right now, especially if you don't have big budgets, for sure. And go hit up Chef Jensen Cummings on TikTok, Best Served Podcast. If you're in Denver, newrestaurants.denver. We're starting to do some of what you're doing as well, of like, we got to highlight these restaurants, especially new restaurants. It is hard to get out of the starting gate. So we're hoping to support and promote them as well.
Awesome. I appreciate it, my man. Have a great weekend.
Cheers.
See ya.